Hey guys, Pogo here, and welcome to episode 2 of Plugins for Sponge. In this episode, we are going to create a healer plugin. The plugin will obviously heal either the sender of the command or the player that the sender has specified. This will give us a more formal introduction to commands. We'll also be able to take a look at command arguments and some other stuff like that. I have Eclipse open right here, and we're going to go ahead and create a new project. I would definitely recommend watching the first video because I'm going to go quickly through the project creation process, and in the future I will just have the project created before I start recording. So in case you don't remember, you go to New and Project, not Java Project. You want to go down to Maven and choose Maven Project. Hit Next, and we can say Create a Simple Project and use default workspace location, hit next, and then the information. So the group ID is whatever you use as your package name. So in this case, I'll say me.pogo. And then the artifact ID is the name of the project. So we're going to call this one healer. So the artifact ID will be healer. We can leave the version as it is, or you can change it if you want. We want the packaging to be jar, and the name will be healer, just like that. Hit finish, and it'll go ahead and create the healer project right here. And you'll see that we have all of these folders in it, just like our folder right here. And then the next thing that we need to do is we need to open up the pom.xml, but we want to right click on it and say open with text editor. And then I'm also going to open up the old one. This is where we copied the information off of the website, and that's available in the description of the first video. But this information, repositories, and dependencies, that just needs to go right there. Now we will be good. This project will add the dependencies. There's Maven dependencies, there's Sponge, and all of the things that Sponge depends on. Great. So now we can go into the src main Java, and we're going to create a new package called me.pogo.healer. And inside of there, we're going to create the healer class. I suppose you could call this main. I don't remember what we called the first one. We called the first one Hello Sponge. So we'll call this one healer. And again, the first thing you always do is the plugin annotation. And the information that goes in there is, the name. This will be healer. Let's import that. Import's good. So the ID, name, version, and dependencies. So the ID will be me.pogo.healer, or it could just be healer. Name, ID is me.pogo.healer, or it could just be healer. Name is healer, and the version is, I believe it says 0.0.1 snapshot, or we'll just say 0.0.1 is what it said, so you can change that if you want. That's all we need there. Cool. Now we are going to need our sort of like our onEnable, the initialization event. So we do @subscribe public void on initialization. This is an initialization event. We'll call it E. And this is org.spongepower.api.event.subscribe. And it'll find the initialization event right there. Cool. So in the next video, I believe the next one or the one after the next one, we will go into more depth with the event system and explain it. But for all intents and purposes, this functions like the onEnable method in Bukkit and Spigot. And then this is where we just register everything. So now we're going to create the command. The healer plugin is very simple. It has one command, the healing command, which will go ahead and heal the player. So first we need to register the command, and of course we don't have a plugin.yml, so we use the command spec or command specification class to kind of set up our command. So I'm going to call the command heal. and we're going to use command spec.builder. And from there, we can add all of the different things that we need. There's arguments, children, description, executor, extended description, input tokenizer, permission, all this great stuff. The things that we really care about, first will be description, and it wants a text in there, so you just simply do texts.of, and then in quotation marks, we'll write description heals the sender or a specified player. So that's the description. Then we can do a permission, which will be healer.heal. Then we need the executor, and then we also need, the arguments. And then finally write .build at the end, and that creates our command spec for us. So we'll come back to that one in just a second. But finally, we just do e.getGame.getCommandDispatcher.register. The plugin class, or the instance of the plugin, is this. The command is the heal command spec, and then the list of names, it will just say heal. It could also be healer, or H, or heal me, or whatever you want, but those are just the aliases for the command. So now we have it registered. The two important things that we need to talk about are executor and arguments. First of all, we understand that description is just a description of what the command does, and permission is the permission that the user must have in order to execute the command. The executor actually specifies where the command will go. In Bukkit, you usually override the onCommand method in your main class, and all the commands would automatically be directed there. There's also the getCommand.setExecutor thing in Bukkit that will allow you to actually set custom executors, and this functions sort of like that. The idea in Sponge is to kind of keep things separated in the different classes so that you can have everything be more organized. So you could actually have healer implement command executor and do everything in here. But for the purposes of good practice, and when you come to plugins that have 5 different commands, you're gonna have a different class for each command. So I'm gonna create a new class. I'm gonna call it heal command. You can call it heal, whatever you want. The important thing is that it implements command executor. It was right there a second ago. Cool. So command executor, again, is an interface that just contains this execute method right there. And of course we need to implement it. And we're going to come back here soon after we get the command spec finished. So this heal command implements command executor. This is in charge of handling the heal command when it's executed. So all we do in here is you write new heal command. And this works because the executor takes a command executor, and heal command implements command executor, so great. The next thing are the arguments, and this is one of the really awesome features of Sponge that really separates it from Bukkit, and in my opinion makes it a lot better. In Bukkit, you would receive a string array that would contain all of the arguments to the command. So, for example, if someone ran the heal command, the array would be empty if they just said heal, or it would contain the player's name if they specified it. And this was not bad because you just check to see specific arguments and indexes and whether it's there or not. But Sponge lets you have a huge amount of control over your arguments. You can actually specify a lot of information about them up front and then let Sponge take care of the work for you. So arguments takes a command element array, variable arity, but we're going to use generic arguments, and if you do a dot, you'll see that there's a ton of stuff in here, and it's really, really useful. What you can do is you can actually specify some important things, like, for example, if I say bool, that means that whatever they say must be a boolean. It has to be true or false, or yes or no, or y or n, or 0 or 1. If I say choices, it'll have a list of choices, and then they have to choose something that's inside of that list, or else it'll give them an error message. There are other ones like here's integer. It'll force it to be an integer. So in this case, we don't have to parse it. We don't have to, say, is this an integer or not? We can let Sponge take care of that for us. And there's all these different things. Then there are important things. There are sort of operators, like this optional one that we're going to use. And what that says is that an argument can be optional. The user doesn't have to specify it. And obviously, we shouldn't force the user to specify an argument. If the user is a player and they don't specify an argument, then we'll assume that they're trying to heal themselves. And then there's also this other interesting one, player, where you can actually force it to be a player. And if it's not a player name, then it will not work. And lots of other cool things. One other one worth mentioning quickly is remaining joined strings. That'll be whatever is left will be added to a message. So if you're trying to get the user to type in a message, like for an MOTD plugin, that's how you get all of the rest of the strings joined together instead of using a string builder or anything like that. So we want to go ahead and say the user should enter a player if they want, but it's optional. So first we're going to use generic arguments dot optional, and then in there we're going to say what is optional. Well, generic arguments dot player, and it takes two things, the key and the game. The important thing with the key is the key represents sort of the name of this argument, and that's going to come into play in the heal command class. So we're going to name this, we'll call it target. You could call it player, whatever you want, but that's the name of this argument. So if the user decides to type in a player name, then it will be referred to by the key of target, and we'll see that in a second. And then for game, it needs a game so that it can find the player. Just do e.getGame, and you're good. So this does look a little bit strange, but what we can do to make it look a little bit nicer is do import static org.spongepowered.api. Actually, I'm not 100% sure where it is. We just want to copy this right here and make it a static import like that, and then we can write it like this. So when you do the static import, it'll just import all of the static methods in there, like optional and player. So when you look at it now, it looks a lot neater. It says optional and then player. So you can clearly tell exactly what's going on. It's going to be a player as the argument, but that's optional. So this is, again, a really powerful system, and we'll see in game how it's handled by Sponge. So we are done in this class. We have the command all registered, the arguments are good, and the executor is set. So now we're going to head over here and actually do the work. So this is the class, and we're just going to write a list of what we need to do. The first thing we need to do is we need to say if the sender is not a player and no target is specified, send an error. And then we need to say if the target is, then we need to say decide whether the target is the sender or a specified player. So we need to say, like, if the sender is a player and they didn't specify an argument, then they are the target. And then we just need to say modify target's health. We need to actually heal the target. So the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to just rename these with capital letters because I like my camel case. And so the first thing, if the sender is not a player and no target is specified, send an error. So we're going to say if not command source instance of player. If the command source is not a player and not command context that has any target, this is where that key comes into play. If we look right here, we said there's an optional player, and we said that the key for it is target. So this argument, if it exists, it works like a hash map, essentially, with a key and value. So if the player argument is specified, then the key is target, and the value is whatever the player typed in. So what we're saying is that if this context has a target variable in it, or rather if it doesn't have a target, then we have an issue, because this means that the console or a command block is running the command, and there's no player specified. So we just need to simply do command source dot send message, and it's going to be text.of, and we're just going to say no target specified, and then we're going to return. We need to stop it here because we don't want to continue. And remember, execute's not a boolean like it is in Bukkit or Spigot. It's actually a command result. So what we want to do is write command result dot builder dot, and I would just say set success count to be 0 and then build. I don't know how big of a deal it makes, but we're just going to kind of go like this. So we're just saying that there were no successes. That's it. And then down here, we actually want to just return command result dot success, because when it gets down to the very bottom, we just are going to say it's a success and return success. Okay, so we did the first part, and I'm going to put these comments where they belong. So right here, if the sender is not a player, no target is specified, send an error. Now we need to figure out who the target is. So we're going to say player target, just like that, and now we're going to initialize it. So at this point, we know that that we're good here. We know that that either we have a player or the target is specified. Or I'm sorry, we know that it must be a player, or we know that if it's not a player, then there is an argument specified. That's what we want to say. So we want to say if command context dot has any target is equal to command context dot get one. The key again is target, and this returns an optional. One important thing is we need to write in diamond brackets the type that we're expecting. In this case, we're expecting a player. That's just to tell it that it's going to return an optional for player, and then we just write dot get. So get1 returns an optional, which means that there may or may not be a value there, but we already checked right here to see if there is a value, so we can safely assume that there is one. So otherwise, if there isn't one, then target equals player command source. So we can safely say at this point that if there's no target, that it must be a player, because we have this if statement up here. So we can make this cast safely. Now that we have the target assigned, no matter what, this will not be null. It's either going to be the argument specified or the player. Then we want to do it. So we want to do target dot, and we can take a look at all of the stuff in here. And there's no set health function in there, or method. But we do see a get health data. So you'll notice that all of these sort of data pieces are broken up. Achievement data, band data, display name data, game mode data. So instead of having all of the methods just inside of the one class, they're separated into these different data subclasses. So we want get health data and dot set health. And we want to set the health to target.getHealthData.get max health. So depending on what the maximum health of the player is, we want to set it to the max health, and that will successfully heal them. Now, here's the issue. This isn't quite going to work. If you try to run it, nothing will happen. And you'll be confused as to why, but take a look here. Actually, I guess I can't really show that because I don't have the Java docs, but the important thing that you actually can't see is that getHealthData returns a copy of the current data. It doesn't return the actual, it doesn't return the instance, it returns a copy. So when we do this, we're just setting the health of a copy, and this actually has no effect. So we need to give this back to the player. You'll notice that set health returns health data again. It's like a builder. So this right here, this that I have highlighted, evaluates to be a health data. So all we can do is write target.offer, and then in parentheses we write this information. So we're getting the health data and sending it to the max health data. This gives us back this new health data with the modified health, and now we're offering it to the target. And you'll notice that this gives us a data transaction result. So we might as well check this. So if that is equal to data transaction, I believe this is a Boolean, but no, it's not. So we'll just say data transaction result res equals, we're going to offer it. And now let's take a look and see what is inside of there. Get rejected data, get replaced data. So this will tell us all of the data inside of there that did not work. So I suppose that we want to say if res.getRejectedData.is present, that means that if this data was rejected or if some part of it was rejected, then we want to send a message to the command source saying health data rejected. And this should never happen. This is really if you're using custom data or if you're, setting data that doesn't make sense or could cause an error. Otherwise, we just want to do an else right here. I suppose we should also return a fail right there. And then in the else statement, actually we don't need an else then. We just want to send information. So to the target, we want to send the message, you were healed by, and then it'll be command source.getName. And then to the command source, we want to send a message saying you healed target.getName. So we just send a message to show that both things worked, and then we return command result.success just to say this worked and we're all good. So let's just move this, decide whether, okay, so then this will go right there. That's where we decide the target, and then this right here is where we actually modify the target's health. So those are the 3 steps that it took in order to write the heal command. It's a little bit more code, you can see, than it would take for Bukkit. But in the long run, when you get to a bigger project, you'll find that it's more efficient to work in Sponge and that it'll eventually even out. So we have our 2 classes ready. We think we're good to go. So let's go ahead and get this finished. We're going to go to Run Configurations, choose Maven Build, and hit the New button right there. We're going to call this New Configuration Healer. And for base directory, you're going to choose the Healer Maven project. Under goals, we're just going to write clean install, hit apply, and then hit run. This is going to do a clean install, clean build of the data or of the plugin, and it'll take a little bit longer the first time. That time it took 8 seconds. In the future, it should take around 2 seconds. I just had to download some stuff. So now we have it built, and if we refresh the target folder, there it is, Healer 0.0.1 snapshot. That is exactly the file that we need. So we're going to be on the desktop under Sponge Server and Mods, and I'm going to drag Healer in there. So we have our Hello Sponge plugin from the first episode, and then we have our new Healer plugin right there. So let's go ahead and start the server. We'll do java-jar, or I'm sorry, we want to go to the correct directory. That's important. You always want to be in the correct directory, or else it's gonna regenerate the EULA file, and that's gonna be annoying. So java-jar location and then run. You could stick this inside of a command. That would be easier, and I should really do that. But the important thing is that now the server is starting up. And in the background, let's get Minecraft opening. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. Give me 1 second. I just need to do a little extra stuff for my computer. You should not get that issue. But now it should open up just fine. Cool, cool, cool. Alright. Sorry about that. And we can see here, done. I don't see any errors with loading anything, so that's cool. And hit play. So the server is up, and the client is also up. So there's our server. I'm going to go ahead and join. And cool. So I am now on the server in adventure mode, and no issues there. A little bit laggy. So I want to go ahead and do some damage to myself, which really should not be that hard. Alright, there's some damage. Alright, so now I'm going to actually start losing health because of my hunger, which is going to speed up the whole debugging process. Okay, so you can clearly see that I am not at full health. I have right now 4 hearts missing. So let's go ahead and try the plugin. I'm going to try it in its simplest form and probably the most useful form, and that is the user is trying to heal themselves. So /heal says you were healed by Pogostick29, and then you healed Pogostick29. And you saw that my health went up to full. It's going down, obviously, because I'm out of food, or I'm very hungry. But you saw that it did actually apply the heal fix, and it did bring my health up. So it definitely works. Let's try out all of the other possibilities. So I can do heal and specify my name, and it does the exact same thing. It gives me the hearts, and it says you were healed by Pogostick29. And you have to remember that I didn't go and, get the player in an array of strings and then go find the player. Sponge took care of validating the player for me, and it actually got that player instance for me. So I didn't have to worry about doing that. That was good. So let's go ahead and try the heal command with invalid input, like Pogo. Oh, I guess it automatically corrects. So we'll just try XX. You'll see it says no values matching pattern XX for present for target. It's a little bit of a weird error, kind of not great for users, but the important thing is that right there it says usage/heal and then target. So you can clearly see that you're supposed to specify the target of heal, and maybe if that said player instead of target, then it would be a little bit more useful. I don't know. But the point is that Sponge took care of that for us. It said, oh, there is an argument, so they were trying to specify a player, but that player doesn't exist. And then it went ahead and just gave that error message. Let's go check out the console and give it a try. First of all, if I run heal by itself, it says no target specified. That is something that we handled ourselves, that we had to handle ourselves. So you can clearly see that it was run by the console with no target, so it gave that error and then it stopped. That's very important that it did that, or else we would have run into some issues. So heal, let's just try again, Pogostick29. It says you healed Pogostick29, you were healed by server, so the name automatically becomes server when I do get name, or I think it would be command block if it were running from a command block. And then you can see that it did heal me. Last, let's just do heal XX, and it gives me the exact same message, no values matching pattern present. So it gives you the error, and it says heal target. So that's pretty good. Alright, that's all for this video. This was a more in-depth look at commands and the whole command executor, and also a first look into arguments, the argument system, which is incredibly powerful in Sponge, and it's definitely one of my favorite features that I've seen so far. And I haven't done that much in Sponge, so it's pretty good. So, as always, subscribe if you want to see more, comment with what you want to learn, If you like this video, click the like button, and I'll see you guys soon with some more coding. Bye for now.